great to see you again. Thanks for joining me. I'm Lorna Schumann with the Illinois State Museum, and today we're in the Changes exhibit at the main museum in Springfield. And we're going to talk about habitat. The Changes exhibit is really a great place for us to see the main different types of habitats that there were a long time ago. But first, let's figure out what a habitat is. Anybody know what a habitat is? I bet some of you can guess. It's a place where something lives, either plants or animals. And it's a place where they can get the most important things that they need. So tell me, what are the most important things that animals need in order to survive? Food, most definitely. Water, shelter, and space. Now I know that one sounds strange. I'm not talking about the outer space out there. I'm talking about the space between you and me. Because if I put you in a spot and told you you only had this tiny little place to move your whole life, that would be really hard not to be able to go anywhere. Even if I promised you all the food, all the water, and all the shelter to keep you warm or cool, it still would be really hard. You need space between you and other things. So those are the things that animals need in order to survive. Well, guess what? Illinois has had that for a long time. And you can actually tell whether or not a habitat is a good, healthy place, or it's not doing so well, it's unhealthy, by if it provides those things for the animals that are found here. So we're going to look at some of the habitats you would find today that you would have found like 300 years ago, basically when the French first came to Illinois in 1672. I know that's a long time ago, but 300 years ago, there were native people here. They had been here for a long time, and we often refer to native people as indigenous. And they had their own buildings, and they managed the land, and they were here. So if you stepped back into Illinois 300 years ago, you would have seen these common habitats. And what do you think they would have been? Anybody have a guess? I bet you can guess some. Well, one of those would have been the forest, which is the one with the trees. You would have seen that. The other one you would have seen would have been the prairie. And that was with the big tall grasslands. In fact, the grasses could be what we call the tall grass prairie, which was 10 to 12 feet by the time August came along. Think about that. That's twice as high as many of your parents are. That's really big. Well, besides the forest and the prairie, we also had wetlands. That's really the place where there's water, and it would have had different types of water, like a lake, a creek, a river, swamps. Yes, we even had swamps here in Illinois. And then one of the other ones that you may not be familiar with, that people often think of as our habitat, would have been a cave, like our cave back over there. It was underground, and that's why you didn't think about it. Now, many people might stop there, but that wouldn't be the place to stop, because even in our Changes exhibit, we don't have this habitat represented, and that is the farmland or the cropland of Native people. Many of our Native people raised corn and squash and beans and other types of plants also during that time. So you would have seen some cropland, not as much as we have today. So let's take a look at how things did change. So look here at this map, and what you're going to see is this is 1850. This is really about the time when things started to make the most change in through Illinois in our habitats. So what you see is the light green stuff, that's all the prairies. And the prairie really was one of the main areas. Now, the dark green is the forest. And that you can see down in the southern part, running up some of the areas in the center of the state, and you can see it up at the very top of the state. But then you also notice that there's some blue areas if you look really close. That's really some of our wetlands, but it doesn't represent all of our wetlands that we have. The only habitat not really shown on here are two. One is the caves, because they're underground, and they would have been found mainly in southern Illinois and along the main river systems here in Illinois. But you know what else isn't shown? Is the cropland. And I think some of that was mixed in with the prairie. So that was about 1850, 1820. Now, let's look at today. You ready? The map is really different. Look at all this yellow on here. That's the agricultural or croplands, the farmland that we have in the state of Illinois. And you can see that it takes up most of it. And then you're starting to see a new color in there, which is the red. That's the urban areas, the big cities that people live in. And in fact, you might be able to see the nearest big city near you. You might even live in that one. So that shows you how much things have changed. And when we look at it, it's a huge difference. So there's been a lot of changes in our habitats here in Illinois. So that's something to think about when you're thinking about the habitats and the places that animals can live. So I hope you learned a little bit more about habitats today, my friends. Take care.